What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Run Pure Sports Morning Show. I am your host, Mangone, and I am here to talk some NBA. We are talking about the Game 7s. We'll talk about the new series starting up because I know you guys love talking about that. And, we got the guy who loves the Dallas Mavericks here at Run Pure Sports to talk about it. It was a pretty shocking game. I don't think anyone expected, the Phoenix Suns to have 27 points at the end of the first half and just absolutely get dusted. So Glock, show the people the Mavs jersey and, take your victory lap on, maybe not Big T. I know you're telling him that, the Mavericks, they're a team that they're just like the Celtics, number 2 team since the break, but take your victory lap on all the people that doubted the Mavericks.
Yeah, I mean, it feels really good, honestly. First round, we were underdogs. We were doubted. Nobody picked the Mavs to win. Second round, undoubted. Nobody obviously picked the Mavs to win against, 64-win team. And then the next round, I'm sure it's going to be the same. I already saw the series price where the Mavs are underdogs yet again. And then, if they're lucky enough to get past that round and go into the finals, I'm 100% sure we're going to be the underdogs again. So, this is kind of like, I don't know, the Mavs haven't won a series since, obviously the first round, but since 2011 when they won the title. And in that year, they were underdogs every single year. And, there's a lot of parallels from that team, to this team. And obviously it's, over 10 plus years now. But, if you compare that 2011 team with Dirk and, he didn't really have a second all-star with him, just a cast of old veteran gritty grinders. This time around, it's Luka and a bunch of young gritty grinders. But, there's a lot of crazy parallels that I see from that team and this team. So, it's all coming full circle. It's great, obviously. I was up super late last night watching all the press conferences. I know you like to dig into those and, really grind out those quotes. But yeah, I was up to like 4 a.m. last night. I couldn't sleep. Obviously, the game was like a huge, huge shock. Like I actually thought the game would go one of two ways, right? Like either we would get blown out by Phoenix or it would be, a really close game because, up until last night, all the home teams were winning by an average margin of like 17 points. And so, my in my head, I was like, can we buck the trend or is that trend going to continue? And, obviously neither of those outcomes happened. So yeah, I'm happy we got the win. It was great to shut up Devin Booker, probably the number 1 front runner in the league. After that game 5 win when they were up 3-2 and, he called it the Luka special. I think it all really went downhill for him. And, CP3, I mean, I guess we could talk about it later, but man, those last 5 games for him, I don't know what was going on, honestly, with him and his performance. Like, and I kind of touched on it. We're obviously we DM back and forth here and there, but, I said too old and too tired, like many times, just kind of as a bit, but, it could hold true, right? Because I don't know what was going on with his performance. And, you kind of attribute that to the New Orleans series of, those guys wearing him down. Obviously, maybe if the Devin Booker injury didn't happen and he didn't have to shoulder the load for those few games, this series could have maybe looked different. But, that's why injuries are such a big factor in the playoffs. And, everything really matters. Like every little detail matters. And, I can attribute, Herb Jones, Jose Alvarado, just pressing CP3 the entire game leading up until this Mavs series where, the guys on the Mavs did it, Reggie Bullock, Dorian Finney-Smith. And, you can say maybe he had off series or something, but I think some wear and tear attributed to that. And, I just think it was a great win overall for the Mavs. And yeah, I'm excited for the next round for sure and break it down with you.
Oh yeah. I mean, listen, I was on the Suns camp. I've been like a Suns backer for a while, but they were embarrassing for sure. Like I could not believe what happened. I mean, it was absolutely wild to watch, but I was happy to see it too. Cause like, it's rare you get to see a team that like goes out there and like, they play the chess match and like they shut them down. Like I love seeing the small ball lineup get the job done, seeing Luka just go on the road and take them down. I mean, it was fun for sure. I wanted CP3 to like maybe get the ring this year. I was hoping he could have the chance, but no, he's not getting the chance now. He's at home. And you did keep saying he was too old. And I mean, maybe it did hold true. I always kept like reading that comment clock and I was like, that's just whatever. I mean, he'll be fine. But I think the big problem that they gave him was like, they really played Reggie Bullock like like Reggie Bullock played him the whole way. You know what I mean? Like they made sure he couldn't get an inbound and get in any type of rhythm. I mean, they did a great job on him. And then also whenever he like get the ball and like he'd start to have the opportunity to like get inside to get that mid range where he likes it, they would put an instant hedge on him. And like, it just caused so many problems. So I give them a lot of credit. At that point, when I realized how well they played Chris Paul, I was like, well, Devin Booker's going to be the guy to step up, right? And when you just throw Dorian Finney-Smith on him, he did a good enough job to be able to lock him down. And then, you know, Ayton, you just can't score 2-pointers all game. You know, you just can't do that against guys. It just doesn't work because, you know, the math doesn't check out when you're just draining threes and have all these open opportunities, especially when you have a star like Luka who can just get a bucket at any time. Like I remember I was rewinding the game last night. And I was showing my stepdad while I was watching. He's like not totally locked into the game. You know, he's doing stuff on his computer. I'm like, just watch this shot. Like he's unguardable. Like it's just insane what he was doing last night. So pretty crazy game. Again, the odds now, the odds, here are some of the updated odds we got on the DraftKings Sportsbook. We got the Warriors, they're plus 135, Celtics plus 190, Heat plus 475, and then the Mavs, they're plus 550. So like Glock, you are right. The Mavs, they will be dogs in like pretty much every single game that they play the rest of the way, I would say. Feel pretty confident in that. If you are going to bet the Mavs, like to win the title, like you bet them now. Like don't wait to jump on that train. Like if you are going to bet, I mean, you could say obviously like the time was like probably like a little bit before where you can get them at like plus 1,000 or whatever it was at, or plus 850, but like, don't wait to bet on the Mavs right now. That's all I'm going to say. If you wait, maybe you can get a couple extra points the one way. If the Warriors win a couple games at home, sure. But point I'm getting at is don't wait till they're in the finals. Like get on them now because they're just going to be dogs the rest of the way and you just ride them out. And if you believe in them. So Glock, did you ever make the bet for them to make the finals? You got the ticket?
Yeah, I bet. So before the Utah series, you know, when Luka was hurt, I bet them, you know, to win that series at like plus 200 or plus 210 or something like that. And then, yeah, I got them at plus 3,000 to win it all before the playoffs started, a little homer bet. But yeah, and then, you know, obviously when they beat the Jazz, I think they had the same price against Phoenix or around the same price, like plus 200 or plus 250. And in my head, I'm like, okay, I mean, I already won the Utah bet. Am I going to really get the same price against a team that I think is like infinitely better than the Jazz? So I didn't really, you know, I didn't bet the Mavs there. And then obviously after they won last night, I checked again, you know, to see what the odds were. And I think it was plus 200, plus 210 against the Warriors as well. And, you know, I'm still thinking about it, but it's like, do I need to make the bet like when I already have the Mavs to win it all and I got the same price against Utah? Like in my head, it's like, it just doesn't feel right to me that I should get the same price against the Warriors, the Phoenix Suns, and then the Utah Jazz. So I might just lay off and just let my, you know, my championship ticket ride until the very end. But yeah, I do have the ticket. It feels good. I think, you know, obviously me, Gary, and AP, we have like an NBA playbook chat because we use it to work on it together throughout the year. But I forget at one point, I need to look up in my messages, but AP was like, how tasty is the Mavs, like 30-1 to win it all. And this was like when the Mavs were playing really good towards the end of the year. Obviously they had one of the best records, you know, after the break with the Celtics and whatnot. And, you know, as a Mavs fan, obviously I watch all the regular season games and I go to some of them. And yeah, man, like we were toasting top 5 in offensive and defensive categories. And I was just, you know, at a group text with some of my friends, I'm just like, I just wish the playoffs started now. And this was like probably a week or two before, you know, this regular season ended, because we're peaking at the right time. Can we bring this into the playoffs? Because we look really good, in my opinion. And so, you know, I was just waiting for that time. And then obviously, you know, last game of the season, probably the last play that Luka's in the game, he, you know, pulls his little, his calf, right, or whatever. And then we're like, oh no, like this whole season's going to be a wash if he can't play the Utah series. And then obviously, you know, missed the first 3 games and we know how that went. But yeah, I mean, overall, I do have the ticket still. Looking forward to, you know, keeping that alive, and it should be fun to just track it all throughout for sure. And then one thing, you know, you said about CP3 is like another thing I mentioned in, you know, our DMs. I was like, one day of rest for CP3, right? You know, through the first 6 games of the series was a really underrated factor. And that's also one thing that surprised me about last night, because he had 2 days of rest. And after game 6, you know, his press conference, he was like finally. He literally said, finally we get 2 days of rest. Finally we get 2 days of rest. Like, I'm looking forward to getting home and getting 2 days of rest. And so, that's also just another thing that surprised me going into last night's game. Like, just to see him struggle so hard or not try to put his imprint on the game, even after he got some adequate rest was, it was definitely surprising to me. And then, the thing you said about Devin Booker, like, I think one of the biggest defensive adjustments the Mavs made in game 6 was double teaming him and sending the blitz. And there's a statistic that I think Devin Booker only scores 0.8 points per possession when he gets blitz or double teamed. And, that's something obviously he's going to take with him into the offseason and work on for sure. Because, if you can't pass out of a double team, then, I don't think you're ever going to be a superstar in this league. So definitely one thing that Devin Booker needs to work on. I did have one question for you. Like, who do you think is a better passer, Donovan Mitchell or Devin Booker?
Yeah, that's actually a good question. Probably Donnie Mitch if I had to pick.
Really?
I don't know. I just think like I'll admit, like, I haven't like looked close at that. I'm trying to think though. Like, the only thing about Booker though is I feel like he's like, I mean, Donnie Mitch is he's television too. I mean, they're both tunnel vision guys. They're used to just shooting and scoring.
Chucking it, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a strong lean on it. My guess would be it's probably just like biased because of what I saw last night. You know what I mean? It just Booker was just a disaster. I mean, it was just so bad. So
I think the only reason why I wanted to ask that question is because obviously we saw what the first and second round matchups, and like, when you have a defense that is willing to double team you and blitz you, how do you look passing out of that? Can you do it? Obviously, Luka is one of the best. He can always do it when he gets double team, finds the open shooters. But these guys like Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker, like, for them to really, like, for me to consider them a superstar, they need to take that next step and be able to pass out of that double team. And I feel like Donovan Mitchell, he kind of gets it easy because he gets to pass to someone like Mike Conley. But Devin Booker per se, like, when someone's struggling like CP3, you'd always think CP3 is that outlet, right? That funnel that he can pass it out to and, just create the offense from there. But definitely didn't look like it. Mikal Bridges, if he's passing to him or Jay Crowder, obviously that's not going to look too good. I love Mikal Bridges, and Jay Crowder, but those guys can't put it on the floor and, become that secondary playmaker. And that's just another reason why I love the Mavs, because these secondary and the tertiary playmakers and these 3-and-D shooters in the playoffs, like, they just become so key. And, another thing that we'll touch on later is look at the Milwaukee Bucks, right? Like, Boston could just really focus in on Giannis and Drew, and not having someone like Chris Middleton, who was actually like probably their second best shot maker and creator, it hurt them. And we saw that, right? Like, the offense was just insanely predictable. It was like Giannis Drew pick and rolls back and forth. Like, that was the only thing they could do, or Giannis isolations, taking it to the basket. So yeah, I mean, these secondary and tertiary playmakers are huge in the playoffs. And I think we're seeing that for sure firsthand.
Yeah, if you guys could please hit the like, subscribe to the channel, helps us out a ton. We would appreciate it over here at Run Pure Sports. Yeah, we can segue over to the next game, Glock. Obviously, we'll talk about the Mavs again, so we'll talk about them versus the Warriors. But let's talk about the Celtics and the Bucks game. A couple of comments before we kind of move on from there. People were saying, yeah, Booker and Mitchell don't pass. Agree, they don't pass, but like, we're just trying to say, and I think you brought up a good point. Like, if these guys take that next step, they got to really like do that more in their game. They have to become more complete. That way, they don't just like worrying about the dribble or drive or the shot. And they have to look around for other things. Obviously, that is very important. Couple more. There was one more comment. So, Josh said Mavs not winning a ring with Jalen Brunson as your second player. So, Josh, I would typically agree, but here's the thing: what if I told you their best player was Luka? Like, I mean, sometimes there's exceptions to the rule, and like, Luka's really good, man. Like, I mean, he's the guy that can just like, he's the guy that can win a title by himself. Like, he can, and they have the offense designed to do that. Like,
I mean, I've heard that literally since the beginning of the playoffs, man, going like, the Mavs can't go anywhere. They have no talent anywhere. And yeah, I mean, you look at the roster on paper, it's like, if you talk to an NBA casual fan and you ask someone who is on the Dallas Mavericks, like, majority of people only know Luka Doncic. Like, there's like Jalen Brunson's an unknown. Dorian Finney-Smith is relatively unknown. Reggie Bullock. I mean, Maxi Kleber, especially, like, you really have to be in the weeds, like a DFS grinder or someone that really knows basketball to, understand, how good this roster actually is versus, what it looks like on paper. And yeah, I've seen it all. Like, oh, the Mavs have no talent. Like Jalen Brunson's a secondary guy. Like for God's sakes, like on TNT, Shaq didn't even know who Jalen Brunson was. So it's like he was like, oh, the keys to winning for the Mavs are Luka Doncic and then Spencer Dinwiddie and then what's that other guy's name? And then Kenny the Jet Smith was like, oh, Jalen Brunson. And then so I was like, oh gosh, like I still feel like the national media and people as a whole still are sleeping on the Mavs, and rightfully so, right? They haven't been relevant, since they won the title over 10 years ago. So yeah, it's just, yeah. I mean, people that say, people obviously don't understand how good Luka is and how much he can make a team better. Like there's that statistic where, it's some shot metric where he makes his teammate shots like 5.5% better. That leads the entire league for the last, however many years since he's been in the league. So yeah, I mean, he's a generational talent, and people are comparing this run. Obviously he hasn't got there yet, but that 2004 LeBron run, right, when he was young, took the Cavs all the way to finals. Obviously, ultimately lost to the Spurs, but this is kind of a similar run right here where we could get something from a young Luka leading the Mavs all the way.
Yeah, and I know one of the comments was talking about how what's it called? That Jordan and LeBron couldn't win by themselves, and it's like, I mean, I'm not saying like LeBron has never won by himself, but he did win with like only Kyrie. Love was out, right? And when he won, like he beat a team that was like a bunch of dogs. Like that was like a one of like a top like team of all time. You know what I mean? Like he didn't just beat like some scrub team. He beat like it may have felt like it was almost by himself in a way, just because of the caliber team that he beat. So we'll see. I'm not predicting them for sure to win. I think the best team right now is the Celtics. I feel pretty confident in that. They're the team for me. I am a Celtics fan though, so obviously I'm a little biased, but I just think they're the best team. I think they're better than the Warriors. I'm surprised their odds are not better than the Warriors. I thought they would be. Maybe it's because probably mainly because their path is easier technically, right? Because the Mavs are the clearer dog. And I think that's the reason why you're seeing those odds that way. But I think the Celtics are the team. I also have thought that Miami's a little overrated, and I haven't been impressed with who they've really beaten. So I'm not too worried about that. Also, one last comment about the Jalen Brunson thing, Glock, which I think there's some correlation here with Jalen Brunson and like Fred VanVleet, guy who's undrafted, grinded his way to get there. Like, I don't know, you put Jalen Brunson on like a different team and like let him be like more of the guy, right? And I know he's not like Fred VanVleet's not the guy on Toronto. It's like him and Pascal, but it's more of like a partnership. I mean, he would put up some really nice numbers. So I wouldn't sleep on that completely. He's a good player.
He's good, and he can be great in my opinion. I mean, we saw it against the Utah series. Obviously, Utah doesn't play that good of defense, but yeah, I mean, we're really going to see what Jalen Brunson's motives are after this season, I think, because, if he wants to be the guy, be the main guy, or at least, the main secondary guy. I mean, I feel like he is a secondary guy here, but if he wants to be the main guy somewhere else, he's going to leave the Mavs this offseason, and, he's definitely going to command a ton of money. I ultimately think he re-signs with the Mavs, and we were kind of having discussions about it later where, we think the Mavs might be overreacting. They're going to offer him the bag and get stuck, in with his big old contract. But they don't, the Mavs don't really have anywhere to go. Like, we're maxed out on cap space. We're going to eat into the luxury tax if we re-sign Brunson. If we let him walk, we can't re-sign anyone like a value. It's going to be all vet mins and stuff like that. So I think we're going to re-sign Brunson ultimately. But yeah, to my point, I think, we're going to see, what type of person he is, because he's going to have the opportunity to go somewhere bad, like a Detroit, New York Knicks, and, lead that team if he wanted. And then obviously, if not, I think he's going to get a similar bag with 5 years with the Mavs. And then, he can be the secondary guy. So we'll see this offseason how it goes and, what kind of decision he makes. But it should be very interesting. And yeah, I think Brunson, he's a baller, man. Like, we got him and Luka in the same draft. Like, that's pretty nuts to me. And those two guys are like the main keys of this year. So yeah, I love it.
All right. Let's talk about that Celtics and the Bucks series. And I mean, again, like another surprise, like Grant Williams, leading scorer of a game 7. He wasn't a leading scorer for the Celtics in any game that year. So pretty crazy, but that's what happened. And man, I was yelling at the TV, Glock, absolutely yelling at the TV. Cause I mean, yes, I'm a Celtics fan. I'm rooting for them to win, but like, I also played DFS. I stacked up that game. I thought the Bucks would do the small ball lineups that they had been doing that had been working pretty decently. Yes, Bobby Portis was getting attacked in the pick and roll. Yes, he got into some foul trouble. I get it. But like, what are we doing with Brook Lopez? Like, why is he still in there? Like, yes, he looked good in the first half. I get it. Like, when he was out there, he made plays. Like, he looked fine. But when you just don't cover the 3-point line, it eventually catches up with you. And if you want to say, sure, giving up corner threes is your like game plan, sure, that could be your game plan. But here's the problem with giving up corner threes. It eventually comes back to bite you. It's a corner 3. You got to give up the elbow 3. You got to give up like the one at the top of the key. You can't be giving away corner 3s all game. Like, yeah, I get it. Grant Williams was missing a ton, but eventually it's going to turn and it's going to go back in. So it was just, I mean, Brook Lopez for 38 minutes was wild to me. I don't understand why he played 38. Like, he did not have to play 38 in the past games that you had way more success. Bobby Portis played 28. Brook Lopez played like 20. And even then, like, try to make it a 28-20 split. And yes, I understand Bobby Portis was in foul trouble in the first half, so he only had 8 minutes. But here's the other thing. It's game 7. Like, sometimes you don't foul your own player out. Yes, he's in foul trouble, but like, if you're going to run Brook Lopez for 38 minutes, do it in the second half then, I guess. You know what I mean? Try to find ways to make it work. I guess the only reason why they probably stuck with it was because Grant Williams was just missing every shot. So like, I sort of understand. But I thought that was one of the biggest things to talk about, one of the biggest talking points. Also, Giannis ran out of gas. I mean, I think he missed a lot of really easy open layups. That's worth talking about. And Jason Tatum in the first half, he was in his bag. He looked really good. And then, of course, Grant Williams took over in the second half. Glock, what's your overall thoughts on the way that Game 7 played out?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely surprising Grant Williams' performance. Definitely not on my bingo card being the being the highest leading scorer for the Celtics in Game 7. But I mean, he's a knockdown 3-point shooter, right? And up until that point, we before this series, we were playing him pretty comfortably, right? Because he was shooting the ball well. He was doing a lot of things, and then it felt like when he got into this series, with the Bucks, that's kind of when he took a little hit. His playing time was going down, even with Robert Williams out, and Derek White was getting the run in front of him. So yeah, it was definitely surprising to me that Grant Williams went off, but at the same time, he's one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. I think statistically, he's the best 3-point shooter, from the corner statistically. So, I mean, he's definitely a knockdown guy, and him shooting 18 times or whatever it was definitely surprising to me. And yeah, those Brook Lopez minutes, like, man, so tilting, like stone feet or whatever Big T calls them. Like, they're just big stiffs, right? And it just felt like every time he was just sitting at the block, giving up a wide open 3, right? And you're just like, oh, there's Brook Lopez again. But yeah, it's just one of those tilting things that's like, especially I'm sure you're familiar with it, but I think throughout the playoffs, like Bobby Portis and Brook Lopez, they're it's kind of like the hot hand theory with them, right? Where obviously, for that stretch of games, Bobby Portis was playing really well and Bud was riding him. And there's players like that on each team, scenarios where, the coach is going to ride the hot hand. And obviously in DFS, when it comes to DFS, we try to figure out, who has the highest probability of staying hot. And, anytime you choose a player that, let's say a lot of people were on Bobby Portis last night, right? And obviously he's coming off the bench. He's going to be the second guy coming in. So, as a DFS guy, all your money is on Brook Lopez or whoever's in front of that person not playing well. And obviously when you're watching the game and then you see nothing's worse than like Brook Lopez going in and then he drains like 3 straight threes or something, gets a few stocks, because, in the coach's mind, especially someone like Bud, it's like, oh man, this guy's playing well. He's off to a good start. Like, I'm going to let him get the burn now, And so, just from a DFS perspective, that's always the worst case scenario, because obviously you want your guy that you're rostering to come off the bench and, obviously outproduce the guy that's starting. But yeah, I mean, it was very painful to watch. I feel like Brook Lopez was known as a defender, in the past for sure, but he just looked awful last game. Grant Williams was great. And then, yeah, Giannis ran out of gas, right? Kind of the same point that I made earlier about, not having Chris Middleton, having that secondary playmaker other than Drew. Like, it just helps so much in moments like these because, in the playoffs, defenses get to crank down and really focus in, right? And obviously Giannis was playing incredible, coming off like a 80 plus fantasy point performance. And he played, I mean, he put up the stats last night, right? But, he was from the get-go, he was missing bunnies, like stuff that you never see him miss. Like these just give me layups, and he was missing them all, like surprisingly. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, but you attribute that to, Boston's defense throughout the series, making it tough on him. He definitely looked gas at the end. You could see like when he went to the bench at the end, like he kind of sat way back, right? And it was like, oh man, like it kind of looked like he was glad it was over. Obviously, he's not glad because he lost, but he definitely did look gassed, and you could see that wear and tear throughout at the end of the series. So, yeah, I mean, I love Giannis. Giannis is like just he's like shades of Luka for me, like where just a Euro superstar, super humble, super dominant, and I was actually rooting for him to make it through, and I wanted to see a Dallas Mavs and then Milwaukee Bucks finals, but obviously that's not going to happen. We'll talk about the next series. Boston just looks unstoppable right now. If they can beat the defending champs, I feel like they can beat anyone. So, that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, it was impressive. And the Celtics, defense is important, right? Obviously, you can see it with Dallas, you see it with Boston, you see it with Miami as well. Like they all are great defensive teams. And the Warriors, of course, they've shown defense at times. They're not like known for the defense, but yeah, they're good defensively, or they can be at times. So they just play good team basketball. If you guys could please like and subscribe to this video, helps us out a ton. We'd appreciate it. Also, want to mention one of the codes we got over here at Run Pure Sports right now. It's called Get Bets. So if you haven't signed up at Run Pure Sports, use the code Get Bets, get you the bet side for free for 1 month. So you get all the plays from Big T, Joey Work, Spread, everyone over there, Keg. So be sure to sign up now. Also, want to mention the core plays and playbook, right? If you haven't signed up, Glock kind of talked about it a little bit. We have a playbook that explains an entire slate. Then you get the core plays. If you listen to Up the Lock show, you can kind of follow along and play the core plays that our coordinators are talking about, and then kind of mix and match your lineups with some of the other plays that you like from your research or from our research. So that's kind of some of the content we have over here at Run Pure Sports. Also want to mention we got Underdog going on. Football season, it does have a time where it's kind of quieter, but people always love to talk football, always love to be drafting, and you can do some drafts right now over at Underdog. Use that code RUNPURE. If you are a new signup, you get a $100 match deposit bonus for your first deposit. So be sure to use that right now if you're going to get on over there and do some drafts. But Glock,
you gonna get into the trenches on best ball this year, Mango?
I don't know if I'm getting it on the best ball. I like the wait. I like the wait until like I feel like, and especially on DK, where like I think like there's a lot of fish out there that are like that's when I want to be in. I don't want to be grinding it in like July, or even July. I can't. Like August I could start, I guess, especially with preseason starting up. Like that I think it helps too a little bit. Like sometimes I think doing the drafts helps with research for like the actual NFL season as well. Like it kind of can segue into that. Like if you don't look at NFL at all and then just dive into week one, like you can definitely make some mistakes here and there, but doing some best ball drafts in like August, September, they can definitely help kind of get you back up to speed, which I think I do a little bit. How about you?
Yeah. So I grinded like the last month because I'm like you. Like I think last year everyone was drafting Cam Akers like really high up, right? And then obviously he got hurt, and however many times you drafted Cam Akers, like those teams would be essentially dead for the most part, I think. And so yeah, what I did last year was I waited to like the very last moment, and I basically blocked out my days because I maxed out the DK. We're talking about Underdog, and they have a great tournament this year. I think it's $2 million prize pool, but I did DK last year. And basically I maxed it out. I did 150 drafts in like a month, I think. Like I was at the MLB live final, and that was like coming to the stretch, for FanDuel, like where NFL was about to start. So in Denver, like in my bed, when we were about to go to sleep, I was doing best ball drafts just because like I knew like if I didn't hit like my 8 drafts a day or something like that, I wouldn't be able to max it out. So I was grinding a man. And then so after that, I was like, okay, I'm definitely not doing any NBA best ball drafts. I'm going to take a break, and I'm still in my head. I'm like trying to consider like if I should do it this year. Cause man, it was a grind. And when you do these drafts, like, obviously you're picking on your rankings, you're trying to get your stacks, and you start to understand the cadence of like all these, when these picks are going to go, and when like Joe Burrow is going to go with Jamar Chase and stuff like that. So it's like it gets really repetitive. So I credit all the people that are able to max out these underdog drafts, and on both sites. I can only imagine doing it on one site, but if you do it on both sites or multiple sites, that's impressive, and props to you for sure.
Yeah, it's a grind for sure. I do like the NBA best balls a lot, though. I didn't play them enough last year. I just kind of like snuck up on me, and I was like, I'm not getting in this. It was like too much work, but maybe this coming up year, I'll plan for it a little bit better. But let's dive in. Let's talk about these series now. Let's talk about like how we think they're going to play out. Let's start with the Celtics. We'll start with the Heat. Man, I think we're going to have some ugly series. Like, let me see if I can, let's see if I pull it up on my phone, because when we're on Zoom, you can't really get on the sportsbook apps. It has an issue. So I want to see what the current over-under is on like the Celtics and Heat game, because I'm expecting that to be low, man. Like, I don't know what it's going to be, but those games are going to be ugly and sloppy and slow. Like, I think you're going to see some of the uglier
204 for game one. I'm seeing.
What do you got?
204. And then
204.
Miami's favored by 1.5.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, the one thing about that I'll say is Miami's had a little bit more rest. So that's one big thing. It's in Miami. And on top of that, like when you play that game 7, right? Like that's an emotional game. It takes a lot out of you. Like that could always be like a first loss on like the team like Boston. So I do worry about Boston for sure in game 1. I do think Boston wins the series. I think they win it in 6 though. I think Boston steals game 2 from Miami, and then they win the 3 at home, and then end up going and then win 4-2. So that's the way that I see it going. I think Boston is just too good of a team. I think Miami, yeah, I mean, they are going to be missing Lowry, right? Like, I mean, at least it looks like it. And even if he's in, I do think he's kind of limping around. So that is a loss for them. That's unfortunate. Kind of like the Middleton thing for like the Bucks. Like that series would completely have been different. It would have been more of a grind for the Celtics for sure. So Middleton being there, was a big thing. Lowry, that is going to matter, because you know what that's going to do? They're going to need more scoring, right? Naturally, the Celtics, they're going to need Tyler Hero probably out there more. And when you need him out there more, you can attack him a little bit more defensively too, right? So that's one of the things that can happen that could be a problem for this Heat team. So overall, I think the Celtics are just too good for the Heat. What's your thoughts here, Glock?
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, can't really doubt the Celtics anymore, right? Obviously, they handled the Brooklyn Nets team with Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and then they handled the defending champs in Milwaukee. And, I did like an NBA playoff bracket before, and I actually had the Celtics losing to the Nets. So I've been completely wrong since the beginning. I'll take that L, and, hopefully I'm not hopping on, at the wrong time here, but I just don't see how you can go against the Celtics at this point. They just look too good. They're built for the playoffs. They're hot. And yeah, I think a huge factor of this series is Kyle Lowry's health, because like, sure, Jimmy Butler has been playing great, but when you get to like the great teams, like the true contenders, you're going to need like we said earlier, your secondary, tertiary playmakers. And Kyle Lowry is definitely one of those guys. And when he was playing in the last series, he definitely didn't look right. Obviously, he didn't look right to the point where they're just like, all right, you just sit down. You just sit down, Kyle. Like we don't need you. So obviously Jimmy's going to get his. And we saw how that kind of looked with Giannis getting his last series against the Celtics, right? Like they're okay with that. And obviously, I think it's going to be a way harder time for Jimmy Butler to, put up the Giannis numbers and kind of impose his will on the game. But yeah, like I think they're going to be okay with Butler getting his, and then they're just going to minimize the other guys. Like instead of Max Strus looking like a superstar, shout out to K Falik, like Boston's going to, minimize him and make him not look good, right? Gabe Vincent, they're gonna shut him down. They're gonna shut down all the secondary guys. And yeah, I mean, I think one key thing about this series is like just thinking about it, like Bam Adebayo, right? Like I feel like he hasn't had that like breakout moment in the playoffs. Like maybe he did in the bubble. I can't really remember, but everyone talks about Bam, how he's like a super great center, and he could show it here. I mean, obviously he has a really tough defensive matchup with Al Horford, and potentially, if Robert Williams comes back and, is at full capacity, he'll definitely have a hard time. But I could see Bam Adebayo being like, a huge X factor here. And, if Miami's able to extend it to 6 or 7 games, then I think it'll be, Jimmy will get his, but who's going to be that secondary guy that steps up, right? Is he going to be Bam? Is Kyle Lowry going to be in there? Is he going to be able to play at 100% and, look like himself? Not sure. So I think it's going to be either Bam or Hero. And, like you said, Hero, he just gets targeted on the defensive end. And we kind of had this conversations in the DMs, but like, I guess we could touch on it now. It's like, it feels like this year more than ever, defensive hunting and, playoff mismatches are bigger than ever. I don't know if it's just like maybe the media is like pushing it out to be like, bigger than it is, but, obviously I think I see it. And, obviously in the playoffs, it's kind of pick and roll, isolation ball, a lot of it. And, when you're doing pick and rolls, you can kind of pick and choose what defenders you want to go against and, how you want to manipulate, your one-on-one coverages. So I think it's been more magnified this year. What do you guys think? And I'm kind of curious if the chat's listening, like, what do they think? Like, do you guys think these defensive mismatches have been, more magnified this year than past years? I personally think so.
Yeah, I think they've definitely targeted it. It seems like a little bit more, for sure. It's funny watching Grayson Allen just get targeted big time. That was one that
great example.
Yeah, they were just like gunning for him. It made sense. And like one thing I think some teams struggle with doing, and I think the Mavs did a great job of it, is like, man, sometimes like you just need to like target like the guy on like the court, like Chris Paul, that like he just does a lot on offense, and like you wear him down and wear him out. Like that's one thing. Like if you're like the Warriors, like targeting Luka, man, like go at him, make it where he cannot do things on offense. Because let's say they miss a shot, because Luka's tired. Well, what happens? Quick rebound, easy transition buckets. Like those just lead to things. Like, good. That's one reason why I talked about how valuable Robert Williams is because that really good defense and protection at the rim can have value because then it can lead to easier transition buckets. Now, the problem is when the other team goes small ball on you and then just like absolutely destroys you because Robert Williams can't cover, well, then you're in trouble. But the key with the Celtics is they have a counter for it. That's the one thing that's nice. They can play both sides of the chess match. Like that's just and that just has so much value. I don't think like people realize. Same with like the Heat. If the Heat have to like, let's say the Heat ran into the Mavericks. Well, they can go PJ Tucker at the 5 a lot. Not saying you want Bam Adebayo off the court and not saying Bam Adebayo can't cover guys, but at times they can do that where it'll help them. You just can't get attacked and targeted. So that's one of the keys I think that they have. And speaking of PJ Tucker, like that's one thing I think the Bucks were really missing this year. Like it was nice for them to have PJ Tucker for those small ball lineups because you know why? You go Giannis, you go PJ Tucker, and then you didn't have Grayson Allen in there getting attacked left and right. Like it's just a very valuable asset to have. And I think that's one key with the Celtics for sure. I think that's one thing that they're going to be able to do against the Heat. They're going to be able to target some of those guys and they're not going to have any holes in their game. And the other thing too, is like Jimmy Butler, he's been great in the postseason. Like he's phenomenal. But the one thing I'll say about Jimmy Butler, this is not the matchup for him, right? Like these kind of wing defenders that are going to force him to shoot that long 2 and that long contested 2, right? It's not going to be a long contested 2 with like, I don't know, like Tyrese Maxey on him where he can just shoot over him, right? You can back him down and shoot over. You ain't backing down Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum and shooting over them. Marcus Smart, he's not having that either. So, I think it's definitely not going to be the easiest matchup for Jimmy Butler. And I think the role players are going to have to really rise up. Like you are going to have Max Struss shooting lights out. I think that's going to be important. You are going to have Bam Adebayo step up and have a big series. Like you're going to need a Tyler Hero game or two where he really steps up and makes a lot of shots. And we'll see if they're able to get it done, especially without having Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry, though, he's kind of old and kind of might be looking like Chris Paul a little bit, where it's like it's going to be rough. Even if he's out there, he's probably going to be hobbling around. So I don't know. I haven't been a big Miami backer over the past like 2 series. And yeah, they've obviously done what they're supposed to do, but I don't know if they're going to be able to get the job done here. I think they're going to have their struggles for sure. And they are the dogs here technically, right? The Celtics are minus 150 in the series. So we'll see if they can kind of upset it. I don't know if they're going to be able to. What do you think? Is it Celtics in, it seems like you're on the Celtics side, Glock. You got them in 4, 5, 6, or 7?
I think 6. 6 makes 6 makes the most sense to me. I definitely agree about your point about game 1. They're coming off the highs of game 7. Going into Miami, Miami beach life or nightlife as well. So yeah, I think, we had a Tatum son saying that he's excited to swim in the Miami swimming pools and stuff like that. So, they could be a little distracted to kick off the series. Miami looks good in game 1, and then, Boston clamps down and then, ultimately gets it done in 6. But yeah, I would agree with that for sure. And yeah, you kind of touch on the point where we're talking about the mismatches and hunting. It's like you go down Boston's starting lineup that you can't really hunt anyone in that lineup, right? Like Max Strus was the guy that everyone obviously hunted, on Miami. And, there was quotes about him saying like, obviously I'm going to do my best on the defensive end so that they can't hunt me. And obviously, you could try your best, but they're still going to do it. And then obviously when you have Tyler Hero come in the game, he's going to be hunted. We'll talk about the Warriors roster later, but there's definitely people you can hunt on that side. There's definitely people you can hunt on the Mavs side. And then, Boston is I feel like the only starting lineup where, you can't hunt really any of them. It's just a really tough defensive matchup for any team for sure.
Yeah, it's hard to. I mean, yeah, if Derek White's in there, yeah, you can hunt him, but that's if he's in there. He's not typically in there, so it just depends.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's good defensively too. Like he's not bad, but like we're trying to find someone you can attack, right? I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Hard. I mean, and I guess the only other way to do it is like if Robert Williams is in there, you just like go small and you hope to kind of splash on him. So, so Felix said, curious to see how Oladipo makes an impact. Yeah, I mean, that's a guy that definitely could get in there, but my only issue is I think defensively he's fine, but my issue with Oladipo that I'm going to struggle with a little bit is like, man, like he can he's just better at finishing at the rim, right? He's not going to like stretch on the floor. And like, I think it's going to like cause too many problems for him. And I think that kind of hurt him a little bit once Embiid came back. Cause like, I mean, he had some games where he was still fine, but then he had some games where he was not as great. So yeah, I'm just not in the camp of Miami getting the job done here. I think they are going to struggle for sure. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that. Let's shift on over to talking back about your Mavs and let's talk about the Warriors. And guys, you could please like and subscribe to the video. It helps us out a ton over at Run Pure Sports. You'll get notified when we go live, and I'll go through the schedule for today. So we got the MLB Swing for the Fences show at 4:45. Me, Title, and Hoop. And then at 6 o'clock, you got JSU, DC, and K Falick on the MLB Up the Lock show. So you won't want to miss out on that. Be sure to tune in. That is on the premium side. And then, tomorrow we got the morning show, 11 a.m. And then we got the usual stuff. At night, we got the Strokes Gain show at 8:30. And we got a major this week. So, we got tons of golf content coming this week. You don't want to miss out on all. All right, Glock, let's slide on over. Let's talk about the Mavericks and the Warriors now. And we talked about the Mavs a little bit, but this is going to be a tough matchup. This is not going to be easy. Just like the Suns, it wasn't an easy matchup. But the one thing I think they got for sure over in the Warriors, man, not the Suns don't have it. They got playoff experience, but Warriors got championship experience, right? These dudes have won titles. So I'm curious to see how it all plays out. They are dealing with some injuries. Peyton, I don't think, is ruled out completely for this series. I think if he actually comes back, it's probably one of those situations where maybe he recovers by the end of the series and he probably won't play until the finals if that's the case. Like I don't see them just inserting him in there unless like they really, really need him to. So that's one thing to note. I know Otto Porter was dealing with some injuries. I don't know how long or how bad it is, but I do think the Otto Porter injury would matter a little bit because then you got to plug Kuminga in there and then Bielitsa. And like, that's just not as great of a setup. I doubt they're going to go the Kevon Looney thing much. I mean, maybe they will do that and you'll see more Dwight Powell, but then you might see the Mavs go the other way and just say, okay, well, if you have Looney in there, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to go smaller. And then obviously you're going to see the Draymond Green at the 5. You'll see Jordan Poole, Klay Thompson, Wiggins, and Curry lineup. So curious to hear your thoughts because you're the Mavs fan, right? You've been a believer in this team. How do you think the Warriors, how do you think the Mavs beat the Warriors? Like what's the best game plan for them to play? And then what do you think the Warriors are going to do to counter back to try and take, the win?
Yeah. So, I mean, this series is super interesting to me because, up until this point, the Mavs have played two teams that have, bigs that are, not like the star of their team, but are focal points. Right. And generally in, this season, the Mavs have struggled against dominant bigs. And, I don't consider Rudy Gobert one of those. I don't consider DeAndre Ayton one of those yet. So, and obviously no one on the Warriors is a dominant big, right? You had Kevon, the Don Looney, go for like 20 plus boards in the last game. But like, he's definitely not a dominant big, right? So, and one of the Warriors' best lineups is that PTSD lineup. So it's like the Mavs might finally have a chance to go with their small lineup. And you saw some of it last night with Luka Doncic, Spencer Dinwiddie, Jalen Brunson, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Reggie Bullock. Like this, you talk about the Heat Boston series is going to be a defensive, slugfest. I think this series on the opposite side, like it could be small ball, run and gun. It's going to be a lot of fun, I can say. And just imagining like the PTSD lineup versus the Mavs small ball lineup, that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I mean, obviously, I think what Golden State does with Looney is going to dictate how much Dwight Powell plays in this series, kind of similar to how he got played off the court against Phoenix. But yeah, I mean, I just think for the Mavs to win, Luka has to just play really well, and then obviously it's simple, but like the secondary, Jalen Brunson, Spencer Dinwiddie, like I think Spencer Dinwiddie is going to get a ton of run in this series just because of the PTSD lineup. But yeah, I mean, I think the Mavs are just going to stick to what they've been doing. They're going to hunt defensive matchups. And it doesn't matter who they put on Luka, right? Because if they have Wiggins on him, sure, he's a great defender, but he's not stopping Luka. Like I think Luka already faced the toughest defensive matchup in Phoenix that he could face, in the Western Conference. Like I just think Phoenix 1 through 5 has way better switchability than the Warriors do, because you look at the Warriors roster, Steph Curry, he ain't stopping nobody. Like he's just too old, too skinny. Klay Thompson, he's not stopping anyone. He's barely on his 2 knees now. So he's terrible defensively. Wiggins is probably their best defender for sure. And obviously Draymond, but Draymond's old and, he's more built to deal with the bruiser types, in my opinion, like the Jokic's. I think Luka can just blow right past him. And then, maybe they start Kuminga. I think Kuminga's a fine defender as well, but he's young. Obviously Kerr has a short leash on him, so it'd be interesting to see what he does with the starting lineup. And then Poole, just another guy that is hunted constantly. And he just looked terrible in the Memphis series. Like Memphis was making him look awful, almost to the point where Kerr couldn't play him. Like obviously they wanted Gary Payton out there for his defensive stuff, and Poole wasn't on the court just because he couldn't defend. And I think that's going to be amplified to the max this series. Like I personally don't think the Warriors have any answer for Luka. And then let's say they start blitzing him and double teaming him, in defense, then it's going to be up to the Jalen Brunsons, the Spencer Dinwiddies to create this, be that secondary playmaker, which they already have, experience doing. And, I touched on it on some of the shows before, but, Luka getting hurt might've been, one of the best things to happen to the Mavs, because in his absence, Jalen Brunson, Spencer Dinwiddie, they boosted their confidence up, right? They have the confidence that, they can do this without Luka, and it's showing, right? Like Jalen Brunson's playing well, Dinwiddie's playing well. So I think the Warriors are going to let Luka get his, and then it's just a matter of, are they going to double him? Are they going to send the traps? Because one-on-one coverage, like there's no one on the Warriors roster that I'm scared of. And we touched on it earlier, but that this hunting, like it's going to be a huge thing in this series. And, I think the way the Warriors win is one of their guys just gets scorching hot. And, I obviously DM with you a lot. I say like, man, are we ever going to see Steph Curry hit 50 plus raw points ever again? Because I feel like from a DFS perspective, I've especially, we know, right, how Steph Curry's been playing. We're watching the games, and it's like, man, like ever since he was going for that record, right? At least to me, it feels like it's been like in the past, Steph Curry, it just looks so easy for him personally, right? Like, chucking threes, making 3-point shots look easy. I feel like when I watch him now, it just doesn't look that easy anymore. Like it's kind of a struggle for him to get to 50 raw. Like I would be genuinely surprised to see him get 50 raw points now, honestly, like, because just watching him from that point until now, just kind of keeping track of, how he performs. Like he hasn't really had like a crazy ceiling performance where he hits like 10 plus threes, right? Or something along those lines. Like it feels like, we're kind of talking about CP3's age. And like, you talk about LeBron, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, all these guys are getting older, and you're kind of seeing like hints of that, I feel like, this year, especially. And so to where like the new era is really shining through with like, your Lukas, your Jason Tatums, your Jaylen Browns, your Giannis's, your Jokic's and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see. I think that's how the Warriors win. Like someone just gets insanely hot. Like Steph Curry shows like, he goes on a revenge tour and be like, I should have been finals MVP that one year that they won the championship or something like that. Klay Thompson gets hot, dribbles only like 4 or 5 times a game and, hits 40 raw points or something like that. Because, I feel collectively as a team, or Jordan Poole gets hot, right? I feel like one of them has to get hot in order for them to win. I'd be very surprised if we see the series and, Curry has 25, Klay has 20, Poole has 20, and then Draymond has like 10 to 15, and then Wiggins has 20. I would be surprised if they win in that way. I feel like in the past, the way the Mavs have lost is when someone just shoots the lights out. And it's definitely possible with this Golden State Warriors team, right? I mean, they haven't really looked that good, I don't think, until this point in the playoffs. Like, I think they're super overrated. And, on the defensive end, that's where it's going to be the challenge for them. But yeah, I mean, I think if one of their 3 main offensive guys can get hot, it'll carry them for that specific game. I just don't know, obviously if they can maintain that throughout, to win 4 games straight, or not 4 games straight, but 4 games total on the Mavs. And I did my playoff bracket. I had the Mavs in 6, and I'll show it to you. I have the Mavs going all the way to the finals. I had the Mavs in 6 against Utah. I had the Mavs in 7 against the Suns, and then I had the Mavs in 6 against Golden State. So that's what I'm sticking with here. I just think the defensive mismatches and the hunting will be too much for the Warriors. I think they're kind of on the back end. Their main guys are kind of on the older end of their careers, and they're dealing with injuries, especially Klay. He's not right defensively. This isn't prime defensive Draymond Green. And Curry, obviously, he's not a defensive stopper, and Jordan Poole's not a defensive stopper. So we could see a shootout here, maybe.
Yeah, Josh is not happy with you. He said the Warriors don't got enough scoring, so he's not happy with you, Glock. I do agree with you on, like, I don't know. So you said Klay's an awful defender. I won't go that far, but he's not the same guy. Defense.
He's not.
Let's please start there. He is not as good defensively as he used to be. Let's definitely start there. You can hunt Poole. I mean, Curry definitely is a guy that he gets hated on for his defense, but I try not to hate on him too much for it, because I do think he's not as bad as everyone thinks. Everyone acts like he's just a guy you can bully completely, but he definitely isn't the worst defender in the world. But
not as bad. What does that mean? Okay, Luka is not as bad on defense, right? Is that comparable?
No, I agree. Yeah. I agree with you on that. But I do think I don't think people understand how valuable 3-and-D wing defenders are. You can go ahead and pay some big man if you want. I'm going to go and pay a 3-and-D wing defender. I'll find some big man that can shoot, and I'll find a big man that can also you sit there and set a pick and grab an alley-oop or something. You know what I mean? Kind of like what the Mavs have set up with Powell and Maxey. I ain't paying Ayton. I ain't paying even Bam Adebayo. There's only 2 centers I'll be paying, and it's Jokic and it's Embiid. That's really it. I don't want to pay anyone else, because 3-and-D wing defenders are just very, very, very valuable to have on your team. And I'm not saying I want to pay a bag to them, but I want to make sure they at least get something. So, and you got to have your stars, obviously. That's the first thing you got to pay. So, yeah, I think that's really important. It's just going to be interesting to watch this series. I do think that the Warriors, I think they are not as impressive as I thought they were going to be. I mean, the first couple ones against Denver, they look great, but then I started as that series went on, I wasn't as impressed with them. Now, I'm excited to see how this plays out, because I don't know exactly how it's going to happen, but I think the Mavs are way more alive than I think people realize. And I also think if I had to place a wager, right, if I had to put my money on the line, I'd put it on the Mavs, just because I think the plus money that they get is worth it. Do you know what the exact odds are right now, Glock, on that?
The series?
Yeah.
It was 210, plus 210 when I checked last night.
Okay, I thought it was 250, but maybe
hold on. Before you go further, I need to address what Josh said in the chat. You keep saying the Warriors don't defend, but when has Luka been labeled a defender? Brunson a defender? Dinwiddie a defender? Maxi Kleber's a defender? Come on now. I mean, I'm a Mavs homer. Maxi Kleber's always been a good defender. He's defended Kawhi Leonard in the playoffs. I mean, obviously it hasn't gone well, but he's a defender for sure. And to say this Mavs team doesn't defend is totally wrong. I mean, Utah Jazz were the number 1 rated offense in the regular season. We held them down to under 100 points multiple times in the first round series. Phoenix Suns, they were shooting 50% or over in every playoff game until the last 3 or 4 games of the Mavs series. So to say they don't play any defense, I just think that's a bad take. I think it's a take that you don't watch Mavs basketball a lot. And since the All-Star break, they've been top 5 in defense and offense. So those are the combinations to win a championship. And obviously Phoenix Suns were 3rd and in offense and 3rd in defense. So it's like to say, they had 27 points at halftime. Obviously, it's not like it wasn't all the Mavs, but you have to be decent defensively in order to, hold the team to 27. So, yeah. And he also said, what does he say here? Is saying the Warriors don't have enough scoring. I'm telling you guys, like if Steph Curry doesn't go for 40 or Jordan Poole goes for 30 plus in a game, the Warriors will have a tough time. And it's just what I've seen, like watching them up to this point. Like Steph Curry's going to have to nuke or Jordan Poole's going to have to nuke for them to be in games. Because, the Warriors could barely compete with Memphis without John Morant. And we saw what John Morant was doing to the Warriors. He was getting everything he wanted. Like Luka's going to get everything he wants. It's going to be up to the secondary guys, and Steph and Poole. Like I'm telling you, like just keep that in your mind. Like if Curry doesn't get 35 plus or Poole getting 35 plus, the game is going to look like Steph Curry's dusty. Like that. I just want to say that right now. I feel like that's why I say it in Mangone's DMs. I'm like, man, are we ever going to see Curry get 50 plus ever again?
He definitely doesn't go off as much as he used to. It's very frustrating for sure.
Yeah. I just think he's getting a little older, and that's completely fine. I mean, you can't cheat Father Time, right? I mean, we saw with CP3, he's older than Curry, but you just can't cheat Father Time.
Yeah. Well, one comment Josh made, he said, Mavs got 2 defenders on the entire team, DFS Bullock, and not all defensive team guys. I'll just say this, Josh. If you're building a team, like you're building a basketball team, like construction wise, like getting a guy like DFS and Bullock, like they're very valuable. 3-and-D guys are very valuable. Like that's one reason I like the Suns a lot. Like Bridges is a great 3-and-D guy. Like having those guys is just really great to have. And you can make the case, I'd rather have Kawhi Leonard over him. Like, yes, of course. I'd rather have Tatum over him. Yes, of course. I'd rather have them over him. But when you start listing just 3-and-D guys, Dorian Finney-Smith and Bullock are high on the list right now, guys that people want to have on their team. And Bullock is a great fit with Luka. Let's just at least say that. Like an amazing fit. Like it works perfectly. It's the exact guy that he needs next to him. So kind of like what DeLon Wright was supposed to be. Like they wanted DeLon Wright to be that guy, and it just didn't work out. Sometimes that just doesn't happen. So, but yeah, let's see if there's anything else in the chat. Max and Jones had what I wanted, Glock. He said, who cares about the West? Neither of them have a chance against Boston. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I want to see. But I would like to see Dallas versus Boston. It would be interesting. And so would the Warriors. Like, I'm happy with the finals, no matter what it is, as long as Miami's not there. Are you in agreement on that, Glock?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think.
Although you wouldn't mind Dallas and Miami one more time, right?
I actually think, yeah. I mean, it doesn't really matter because, Miami doesn't have any of those same guys. But I do think Miami would be the easier matchup than Boston for sure. So I would prefer that. But yeah, I mean, I think Boston's going through. And then obviously I think the Mavs are going to beat the Warriors. But Warriors and Boston would be a nice consolation prize as well for sure.
Yeah, well, if Spread Astaire is still watching, he's going to be excited for some Udonis Haslem revenge, finals revenge, right? I mean, he's the only guy that was still there, right, Glock, from the old team?
Yeah, I think so.
That's the other one.
It's been a while. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no doubt. I think Haslam's the only guy from both those teams. I can't think of anyone else. Actually, the only other one would be, I guess technically you could say Jason Kidd, right? Was he part of it? Technically, even though he's the coach. Too. Oh, yeah. Spo.
Yeah.
Jason Kidd was like a player, right? And
Jay Kidd for sure. Yeah. That's crazy. Full circle.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. So, all right. Well, we had fun talking about these finals. Guys, if you could like and subscribe this video out when you're going out the door, it helps us out a ton. And before you go, I just want to mention last couple things. We got the show today, 4:45, MLB Swing for the Fences show. Be sure to check that out. Then we got the final countdown, 6 p.m. MLB show. So you don't want to miss out on that on the premium side. And tomorrow we'll be back doing the morning show. Then 4:45, MLB Swing for the Fences show. Again, 6 o'clock. We'll be doing that premium show. And then you also have the Showdown show for NBA, Big T and JSU. They'll be doing that after the MLB show. And then 8:30, the Strokes Game show. So we got all the shows going on over here at Run Pure Sports. If you haven't signed up now, use that code GETBETS, get you the bet side for free for an entire month, and you get all the Run Pure Sports content. Glock, give me your final thoughts, and then we'll get on out of here.
No, yeah. I mean, it was fun to be on the show finally, the prestigious Mangone and Friends show. Hopefully, after the Mavs win this series, I can hop back on with you and, we can see Josh Gillum in the chat. He's saying Warriors win 4-2. Let's see how, those comments feel after a few games and whatnot. But yeah, it was definitely fun to be on the show with you. Looking at Brett De La Bosch's comments, he said he picked the Mavs and Celtics before the playoffs. I'm curious to know if this guy is from Dallas or he has any affinity.
He's a Mavs fan. He said it earlier.
Okay.
He's a Dallas guy. So yeah, I'm sure that helps with it a little bit.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Brett's my boy. So yeah, hit me up on Discord, Brett. You seem like a cool guy. So yeah, we'll root on the Mavs together. But yeah, it should be fun. I mean, obviously, MLB is starting up and we have the MLB shows going on and stuff like that. But to be honest, I've just been completely locked into NBA. Me and AP have been switching off the playbook. So it's just been like constant NBA in my head. And obviously that's what I prefer. Like NBA is just, my favorite sport personally. The playoffs are just the nuts. And, as we just keep getting further and further all the way to the finals, it's going to be fun, to break it down with you and everyone else on the team. So it's been fun. Thanks for the invite. We'll keep it going. I'll have this Mavs jersey on all day. I think I'll be on Holden's pod, here shortly. And then, if they have the bet show, I'll be on there as well with Spread and Tyler breaking it down.
Yeah. And Glock, before we get out of here, there's a new Bleacher Report video of Luka just sending Cam Johnson to Cancun, where it's like one of those videos where it pauses when he breaks his ankles and then just sends him right to Cancun. So
dude, that video, those videos that come out after every person gets eliminated, like with that theme song or whatever.
Yeah. Is it not out? I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't seen it yet either.
Oh man, I haven't looked.
Let's look for it after. Yeah, I want to see it.
Oh yeah, I have to see that. The Coach Carter send off. We'll find it for sure.
Yeah, Coach Carter send off. That's right.
All right, we'll have to find it. But that is gonna wrap it up for us, guys. Thanks a lot for joining us here on the Run Pure Sports Morning Show. For me, Mangone and Glock. We'll see you guys later.